Team. As you can see here, we need 3 implanters. You're going to soon see why. All punctures are done under ultrasound guidance, and we believe that definitely it improves the safety of the procedure, lower complication rate, and especially for low risk cases, makes the whole procedure shorter and much faster recovery. So here's the venous puncture, and here is the puncture for the large sheath. As you can see here, quite nice and clear demonstration of the lumen, and we're looking for the part without any, a soft spot without any calcium. In the previous case here in the main arena, we've seen the pre-closure with a single proglyte. We're still, when we say old school, 2 proglytes. We may think of adapting to a proglyte and angioseals. But here, 2 proglytes, pre-closure is done, and we're up to the 8 French coming. And now actually the procedure starts. We're putting in, we're still believing temporary lead and not pacing through the wire, especially not in a patient with a reasonable risk for conduction defects that would call for a pacemaker. So once we test the pacemaker off the go, 14 French over a stiff wire, we will use it Confida, and once it's in, the Evolute Pro Plus is loaded. Actually, seems quite similar to the Evolute Pro. Aortic valve crossing through the with an AL1, and indeed quite a calcified valve. He routinely exchanged for a pigtail, and again, in the previous case here in the main arena, there was a question whether hemodynamics should be taken before procedure. Quite religious in this issue. I believe that hemodynamics should be measured, especially with the self-expandable, including recording of the left ventricular and diastolic pressure. This would actually serve us after procedure, post-procedure, to assess the severity of paravalvular leak, and we should record the diastolic, as you can see here, is quite low. It's 40 to begin with, 40 millimeters of mercury, and we'll come up to this in the future. The stiff wire, which in this case is the Confida pre-shaped wire, is deployed via the pigtail, and we should pay some time trying to put it indeed deployed nicely. It would serve us nicely throughout the procedure. So take your time, put the Confida nicely in place. If it's not going that well, try again, take your time. Valve is fluorochecked, similar to the Evolute R and the Evolute Pro. The Pro Plus is not any different from these ones. And once we're ready, the 14 French is being withdrawn. Manual pressure is exerted on the groin, of course, nothing new here. A lot of manual pressure. And here's the system coming up. It is quite smooth. We didn't have any problem either with the femorals crossing the arch or crossing the valve. At this point, as you can see, we haven't injected yet. We need to correct for the parallax. Once the parallax is corrected, I think it's time to start to release the valve. Need to assert that the pigtail is deep in the coronary. Quite fast, as long as we're in the capsule, going a bit slower from here on. Actually, nothing different than deploying an evolute. We're trying to control. As you can see, it moves a bit. The depth is achieved. The patient is quite stable. Pressures are good, and actually the diastolic is similar to what we've started with. We do inject twice, once before we correct for the parallax, and again after correcting the parallax, actually being sure that we're in all aspects below. And since we're aiming the high implantation, we're good with these 2 millimeters, releasing the tension, pulling on the wire, pushing a bit. As you can see here, I'm pushing a bit on the catheter, correcting towards the greater curvature, and the valve is released. Centralizing the nose cone. Being sure that the pedals are free, centralizing the nose cone, and we're pulling out, including the wire. In here, actually, we're holding ourselves from injecting. We know that if pressures are good, let's wait and let the valve warm up. One may say pulling out, especially in a high implant, pulling out the pigtail over J wire. And we're using now the same pigtail for hemodynamics, side arm of the delivery system, taking our time, letting the system expand. As you can see here, the diastolic is actually the one we've started with. And I still believe, maybe it's an old school, but I do believe that hemodynamics are critical for assessment here. The multimodality assessment is very important. The diastolic has not changed much from what we started. We're happy about waiting. And as you can see, we've got 3 operators because one of us is actually moving to the echo position now, performing the echo. We learn to rely on ourselves. And these procedures are very hypertrophic, actually closing on itself, and it was time to administer fluids. Valve appears to function quite well, actually with no signs of leakage. And only now, a few minutes afterwards, we're injecting in both aspects, both RAO and then an LAO. And as you can see, quite a high implant. Supraortic injection in the LAO. Hemodynamics are quite well. Diastolic got up to 60, so we were quite happy with this, and this is the time for closure. Using the proglides deployed earlier, and actually quite straightforward from here on. No bleeding yet. I still believe that it's mandatory to do a decent injection to be sure that there is no leakage or stricture. Angiosil was used for the left groin. The lead was pulled immediately afterwards, since the QRS is normal. And this was actually the end of the procedure. This is the patient. We've got a patient with us. We've got her husband who underwent TAVI here in Hadassah about 3 years ago. Looks quite well. How do you feel?
I feel very good, thank God.
So we've got the family, everybody's happy, our patient is happy. Ala ma'at, feel well, be good. Thank you very much.